Hello and welcome back to Jarl's Favour Dev Log. Let's go through what I've done for the past couple of weeks. I'll try and keep it brief if I can. Work has continued. I've sort of, as I was alluding to last time, changed things up a little and worked on different areas of the game just to keep it fresh for myself. So here we're looking at a landscape vista. We can see I've begun building the main village. We'll have a look at that in a minute. And in the background we can see these wispy clouds, and also they're all around the place, just in varying levels of transparency and size. And if we have a look, we'll see more and more of them over here. These are static fog cards, two-dimensional flat cards with fog images on them, just to help paint the landscape a little bit of like art design really. We can see here, because they're static, over time they'll make, if they remained the way they are, they'll just make the background look like it's an old school skybox, which it's not. If we go up, it's all 3D. It's all, there's no collision on these meshes. They're low poly meshes, but the sun, if we change the daylight, will, shade them and so on. So, but they didn't seem far enough away when I put them into the landscape. So I needed to, besides the fog doing what it did, needed to make them seem further away and seem more like a background element. And that's what these fog cards were for. To make the fog cards seem dynamic, they're not animated. I tried that, but they're just far too large, and I was getting weird dithering issues and so on. So I instead came up with this little blueprint system where over time they fade in and out randomly, so not in unison. So the landscape, the clouds in the background will forever be changing, fading in, fading out, in a manner that you don't really notice unless you want to stare at them for 10 minutes. I've sort of played with that a little bit, and it looks okay. I'll go through the blueprint, what it does. So I'm using Easy Fog, I think, which is a marketplace asset. Just get these fog cards from. I just grabbed their blueprint. I removed their event tick because, again, I'm not trying to animate the clouds. At the end of their blueprint, I just put in a delay of 2 minutes to 5, or what is that? 5 or 6 minutes or something. Sorry, my maths is not good. So the delay is random, so it won't begin to fade out until it hits this delay. And we can press play and we can watch the clock. It'll be too long for this video to wait. But here we can see delay is 251 seconds for this particular random element to begin fading out. So we'll stop that. And it'll be random every time, and this will occur for every fog card, and there's about 40 of them. 40 of these different cards in a 360-degree panorama all around us. So the idea is they fade in and fade out and are constantly changing to make the background that little bit more dynamic and make it seem distant. And you're really only going to see them on mostly clear days as well. So if we change to a cloudy day, there you see they kind of blend with the clouds. So let's move on to clouds. That's something else I've changed. Using ultra dynamic sky and weather, I moved to volumetric clouds and I lowered their range so that you can actually walk through them. So if you climb up the mountains, you're going to be walking through clouds and you'll come out on top to some nice clear alpine region. I think that's cool. I like that. It will be, currently it is that if it's raining below the cloud, so let's turn on some rain. Okay, it's raining now. If it's raining below the cloud, if you move up, it won't rain above. And the same will be for snow. Next step for this weather system is the snow line. So we're above the snow line here, and it's raining. If you can see the rain there. I want it to be snowing above the snow line and raining below the snow line. So I need to put in just some height guidance, or whatever you call it, in the probably the landscape blueprint, I think, and landscape material, sorry, and where this snow line is probably around here. I'll have it begin snow, so you could walk from down here where it's raining, you could be walking up, it'll transition to snowing, walk through the cloud, it'll be clear, and it will not be snowing or raining. Going for, a little bit of realism that way. I like this system. Underneath the clouds we can see the fog cards. They look okay, but they're a little bit too emissive in this darker light. So that's something I'll have to put into this blueprint here, that grab the ultradynamic weather state and adjust probably the fog, the transparency of the card, depending on the weather. They look, like I said, they look okay. You do sort of get those kind of things in rainy days, but they just pop a little bit too much for my liking, I think. That should be easy enough to sort out. So that's weather and clouding that I've added. Landscape. So the landscape texture was bombing out to the point that it crashed and corrupted my project file. So this is a good time to advise on backups. Backup often, and backup in different places as well, to have a proper backup regime, because I needed to revert to a backup to restore Jarl's Favour project. It corrupted to the point that it would not open, and the corrupted part of it was the landscape texture. And that was because I think I'm just really pushing the memory limits, and it's good that it happened. It kind of reminds me to keep things optimized. So I had to remove a couple of textures from the landscape. The textures I removed were, I had a seaweed texture to colour the edge of the beach everywhere, like seaweed rocked up, piled up on the beach everywhere. It looked good, it made sense, but removing that helped alleviate the problems a little bit. And then I had to remove another texture, which we can see here a remnant of, which was a stream bed, so wet rocks where water trickles down. The specularity remains, but as you can see there's black there now that texture has been removed from the landscape. I can show you in the landscape material actually. So if we go into the material instance, open up the parent material, and have a look at the landscape. It's not overly complex. I'd say it's mid-complex, the landscape, but it was just pushing boundaries, I think, because of the amount of landscape layers I had. So you can see I've removed one. I've also deleted a couple. Also, because the landscape there's 2 layers per material, basically, one for height as well. And the ones I removed were the stream bed and the beach sand, which was actually seaweed. That fixed the problem. If I put them back in, it'll crash again. I might try and rebuild just the specularity so I can paint wetness to have those sort of stream things occur, but if not, it's not a great loss. Otherwise, the materials, I don't know, I think it's straightforward enough. Up here we have the foliage, and by foliage I mean we'll have a look, go back into the landscape material. That's as I was saying, that's the grass types, rocks and whatever else I want. Sticks and twigs are all over the place. And then complicating, I think, the memory textures and so on, texture memory, is these two things here. So I have one snow function, which is the beginning snow that puts a fine layer over all objects that I want it to. And then I have the ultra dynamic snow, which then adds the deformed and height snow. And together, both of them combined, which I think I mentioned in a dev log from a number of months ago, both of them combined work really well and look really good. But all of these things going on make the landscape, you know, sort of chew up a bit of memory. I managed to get it back in line though and optimize it, so that's good, and I'll carry on optimizing. We can close all this and have a look at what else I've done. So yeah, the best lesson learned there was back up frequently and not always onto the same hard drive, because it would really not be fun to lose all this work. Obviously if you have to start fresh, you're going to come back and be better and faster, but I don't really want to do that. So the main village I've started populating, you know, sort of placed buildings down. I haven't put things inside the buildings yet. Some of them already come populated, but I'll be removing a lot of these sort of blueprint things depending on what asset package I'm using them from. None of these I've designed myself. I'm not doing much modeling for this game myself, and most of these are all asset packages from the marketplace. To make them sort of align though, I'm not just drag and dropping. Things like this roof I take from one asset package and put on another, so I mix and match the components to make them seem a little bit more cohesive. Like this building here, I'll be removing this wood type and putting it on some of this dark wood. Or at least darkening texture up, and definitely getting rid of the tiled roof, and I'll be putting on thatch roof. That sort of stuff to really make things cohesive and put in a little bit of efforts so you don't get that thing that you get in some indie games where the assets don't all match, and you can really tell. I don't want that happening. I have put in some blueprints. Just started animating the village. So just put a simple rotating blueprint on the windmill sails there. I actually don't know how sails work for a windmill, if they should be blowing that way or the other way, or if that's a choice of the engineer who builds the windmill. I don't know. I've got them blowing that way anyway, anti-clockwise, and then they just move a mechanism that I pretended has some function, so I just added some circular wood components, and the blades or the sails move that. The milling happens here and just drops your flour down here, sort of thing. Doesn't matter, those players aren't going to pay that much attention, but it's good to have basically moving components. Makes everything feel that little bit more alive. That ocean is quite loud in my headphones. And I've just been going through and placing all of these like struts. All of these struts and things are all hand placed. And then I'm beginning to build or place fences and just move down the level of detail of plates of animal pens, and from there then populate those, and then build the roads and the paths and put bushes where people would not traverse too often, and so on. And by the end of it I'll have I think that's all I've really done. I did a little bit more work on the water system. We won't look at that this particular time. And that's it for this devlog. I'll probably catch you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks.